Hello and welcome to our bite-sized sessions on useful models and concepts that could support your CIPS revision process. Today's session takes the form of an interview and we'll be comparing the role of procurement in different types of sectors. What are the main differences between the public and private sectors?
Yeah, that's a really important question. And if you're a CIPS student, just understanding the general operation of these two sectors and how they contrast is vitally important. Let's take the public sector first. So generally speaking, as a stereotype, you'd say that the public sector, organisations within it, are owned by the state and they are funded through taxpayers' money. So a government will collect together tax from its people, businesses, operations in a country, and then it distributes those funds through the public sector and different public sector organisations so that services can be delivered to the general public. So the role of a public sector organisation is the delivery of those services, and in general the desired output or the intended aim of the public sector organisation is delivering value and delivering value for money. Now you contrast this with the private sector, and the clue is in the title. The private sector is private. So you're talking about organisations that are owned by private investors. That could be individuals, it could be institutions. And we refer to these as shareholders. This is where they've put their own money in to form a private organisation, and that organisation is now using those funds to generate its own economic activities. And the overall aim of this private sector organisation is the profit motive. And so this is about making sure that it can compete favourably and have a competitive advantage in its industry in order to generate money.
So how does this affect procurement?
Yeah, so for all of us in procurement, we're talking about two completely different operating environments. We're fortunate that procurement is a transferable skill, and those commercial skills that we learn and develop in our careers can apply to either of those sectors. But let's just focus first of all on the public sector. The public sector, as we said, is all about delivering value for money, but it's within the operating environment of the public sector. So we're talking about statutory regulations and legislation that a procurement person is going to have to work within. So that's about understanding that taxpayers need to have transparency about how their money is being spent, on what it is being spent on, and what those decisions that are being made to award a contract, how they've been made. So a public sector procurement person is going to be involved in understanding how their stakeholders are perceiving the procurement, how they are complying with certain procedural requirements, and they're working in almost like a quasi-political environment in order to deliver value for money. Contrast that now back with the private sector, and again the procurement individual is working in this private organisation. Their activities are private within that organisation. So the procurement person can now work within the governance and the rules of their own organisation. In general, that's a lot less legislation or statutory oversight than in the public sector. And here the motive of a procurement person, it really is about gaining that competitive advantage and helping to maximise profit. So that could be about price reduction or quality improvements in order to help that individual private sector organisation.
What is the third sector?
Yeah, so we talked about the two main sectors, public sector and private sector, but there is a third entity which we now need to consider, and the rise and importance of this third sector, it has been really key over the last few decades. The third sector is a catch-all term that's used to describe charity organisations, not-for-profit organisations, organisations in the voluntary sector, even membership organisations or social organisations. So your local sports club or a faith group or a membership organisation like CIPS all comes within the third sector bracket.
What are the challenges for someone working in the third sector?
Oh, well, this really is quite a challenging environment. So there are elements of the public sector and the private sector that also apply within the third sector organisations, and procurement is still a commercial process. However, for third sector organisations, you're talking about funding could come from all sorts of places. It could be donations or sponsorships or even someone's legacy. So you'll have a lot more stakeholder interest in how money is being spent. You'll have a constitution which you're as part of your governance, and procurement needs to deliver in line with that constitution and the principles and the values that the third sector organisation is purporting. And so you're still trying to deliver commercially, but it's about recognising that all of your activities will come under a microscope, because as a third sector organisation, a lot more is expected of you ethically, and a lot more is required in terms of transparency.
Thanks for that. So what are the key learnings for the CIPS person just about to take their exams?
Yeah, so these three sectors, it's really important to understand the differences between them. So it's about whether you work in any of those sectors, first of all, understanding the public sector, how it operates, and then in particular, what that means for a procurement professional working within the public sector. And then to take those same kind of headings around ownership, funding, the way in which procurement operates, the aim and the mission of those activities, to take that into the private sector and ask those same questions. And then again, for the third sector, it is important. So in your CIPS exams, being able to recognise, if you're looking at a case study, what the implications could be, or possibly to be able to draw a contrast between any of those three sectors.
I hope you enjoyed this session, and thank you for watching.